Another common question that I see in groups or forums really surrounds, we won't go into compensation, but really you've got a team full of engineers. How do I manage them, or how do I, watch their numbers or metrics or performance or whatever it might be? And for some, like myself, I say that we manage by the numbers, right? I don't want to micromanage and I don't want to babysit, so we really look at team members' numbers every single day, every single week, and we let that become the bar, and we publish those publicly, right? So it breeds a little bit of competition between the engineers in a good way, and everybody's aware of who's putting in the effort and who's not. But I've seen the question go full tilt the opposite direction of, some MSP owners or managers looking to, what monitoring software is the best to watch employees and see what they're doing all day, right? And I've often looked at that as, if you can't trust your team to get the job done, can you really trust your team? And that's a whole nother issue, right? So I shy away from, monitoring and kind of leading with the iron fist, and we really just, manage by the numbers, so to speak. And, you could see it right over my shoulder. Our KPIs, our metrics, our numbers for the day are on screens throughout the office. And then we do, a daily and a weekly report every single morning at our stand-up meeting, right? And this report gets published, right? We can see the hours billed or booked for every team member, as well as ticket close, right? Especially for our instant support group, the guys that are fielding the calls every single day and the inbound tickets. And that gets reviewed. Hey, who did the most yesterday? Let's celebrate them. Hey, nice job. You closed the most tickets. But hey, this guy was a little bit below the mark on hours booked and they didn't close a lot of tickets. Hey, dive back into that and get that remedied, right? And of course, if we see it 2-3 days in a row, then there's a problem there. We might let it slide, on that one day, but it gets called out. And this is happening, without me, without management. The stand-up meeting is run by a different team member every single day, and they go through the agenda as usual. So yeah, a lot of transparency in it, thereby the accountability happens. Or it's going to give us the insight to ask them, hey, what's going on? 9 times out of 10, what we see in the business and at work is typically something outside of work, right? And so it gives us a nice conversation with a team member, find out what's going on with them, and, help them through that, or help bounce them back, or just listen, right? And understand. Because again, most often it's not something that's happening in the business, it's outside, the outside world. But nonetheless, then we're able to, the team can kind of police themselves, right? It doesn't need a manager. It doesn't need me as the owner to dictate and micromanage. Everybody knows what the bar is, where they need to be every day, and they can just get that done. I think every team member is going to have a season or a short time period where, their numbers drop, or they're not doing so well, or they're not showing up, or whatever it is. Showing up, mentally, right? Not physically. That's a whole different story. And I think it's important to come at those with empathy and understanding, and finding, hey, what's going on, right? The simplest question you can ask a team member, what's going on? And then let them talk, right? And understand and empathize and things like that. Now, for something that's a recurring issue all too often, et cetera, yeah, you need to go constant follow-up, right? Hey, we're having a conversation about this now. This is what's happening. This is what I need to happen. And I'd like for it to happen by such and such a date. And you and I are going to have a conversation again. And that may be weekly, right? Hey, next week, we're going to talk about this again, and we're going to see how far it's coming, right? Because then after a certain period of time, call it a month, call it 3 months, the onus is on them, right? I or we wouldn't have to necessarily go to anybody, and it's certainly not going to be a surprise that we're having a come to Jesus talk, or a write up, or whatever it might be. They're not surprised because we've had this conversation ongoing, right? So I think it's important for a recurring issue or a constant issue, constant feedback, right? Step it up to, it's not an annual review, it's not a quarterly review, it's every single week. Right? We're going to talk about this every single week until it changes, or until we have to change something, frankly.